It's an art, and it needs to be passed down from generation to generation to sustain it and to make it better and make it evolve. The first time I saw a magician on TV, I was probably 7 years old, and the magician was Doug Henning. And he had long curly hair, and he was like a hippie magician, and he didn't wear a tuxedo, he just wore very colorful clothes, had a lot of imaginative magic. And my first show ever was when I was 11 years old in a small town called Knoxville, Iowa, and it was for about 60 kids. Most of them were a little younger than me, some of them were a little older, and I wasn't at all intimidated. I just sailed through the show. I did tricks that I made out of cereal boxes and cardboard and string, and I got paid $5 in cash at the end of the show. And I didn't even expect to be paid, and it was the first time I realized, wow, you can do something that you really like and people will pay you for it. And so that stuck with me all through high school and college, and I've been a magician ever since.
So I do believe it's more than entertainment, and I think it's underrated in society, probably for a couple of reasons. But first of all, I think for me, magic can be an art form. It incorporates so many of the other performing arts. It's really quite an interesting art form in its own right. There's acting skills involved. There is sometimes vocal skills involved. There is sometimes movement or dance skills involved. And of course the skills that are needed in order to do the sleight of hand and manipulation. Combine those all together into a theatrical performance on stage, and that's got to be an art form in my eyes.
And I think certainly with actors and magicians and people, I think there's always that tension between trying to present something that looks fresh and spontaneous, but also knowing your lines and getting your marks and making it look easy. And I think that's also a virtue of people's talent. You watch some actors and they look totally natural, but of course they may have studied for many, many years to get to that point. So I think patience is important, but as I said, you sometimes strive to create an image that looks like you just did it without any patience whatsoever.
Magicians, mimes, ventriloquists, clowns are usually used as patsies in most of the media. Whenever you see a movie and there's a magician in it, he's usually an evil magician. He wants to melt Frosty the Snowman and get his hat back. They're funny and cute, but we're kicked around a lot with the other variety artists. And so on that level, some people don't take magic seriously. But the old stereotype of a magician pulling a rabbit out of a top hat still remains a cliche image where it's really hard to break away from.
I think it's always one of the goals of people to pay more attention, to be able to perceive better the world around them. And unfortunately, I think that the rapid pace of society creates an atmosphere where people are less perceptive than they used to be, where they pay attention to less and less, which actually makes our job easier.
And that's how we trick the audience, by working with people's perception. The human mind is used to creating patterns, so anything that we see or experience, we're only really conscious of a small fraction of the information that's coming at us, because there's just way too much to consider otherwise. So magicians create patterns, establish patterns that the audience is used to, and then when they break that pattern, the audience doesn't notice it because they've already been conditioned. So that's one of the main ways that we trick the audience.
I think there's a little bit more of a danger now of just expecting an immediate interpretation for everything and immediate understanding that I think might, for some people, make them a little less reflective.
Of course, part of what we rely on is misdirection and being able to do moves when people aren't expecting them. But nowadays, I barely have to use any misdirection at all. People are misdirect themselves so often. So now the challenge now is keeping somebody's focus instead of being able to use misdirection in order to guide them away. Magic and the exercises for the sleight of hand that are done are also great exercises for people who are rehabilitating from things that have to do with the hands, because the exercises for sleight of hand get you to use your fingers individually and together and to coordinate them. And that's often helpful for rehabilitation and for exercises for people who have chronic illnesses with their hands too, to be able to do the same exercises that magicians do for their sleight of hand really has helped.
I will meet people who don't like magic occasionally because they think magic is designed to make them feel stupid. Some people feel that way, that's fine. So if I meet somebody like that, I don't force my magic on them, but I force my personality on them. And I put them at ease, and I make them laugh. And it's no longer about the magic, it's about the exchange between a couple of people, the human interaction. And that is what magic is all about. The magic doesn't exist in just one person. It takes the magician, the performer, and the audience. And that's where the magic's actually happening, is in the audience's mind. So when you're a magician, it's far more important to create a good relationship with your audience than it is to race through your tricks even flawlessly, because without that connection, it doesn't mean anything.
Everybody has magic in their lives, and if they brought that to every theatrical production, even as an audience member, to be able to suspend reality even for just a few moments or for just a couple hours, the enjoyment is so much more than trying to figure out how each particular magic illusion is done.
But magic does teach us how we think, and that's important for psychology, which is still a relatively new form as well. Psychology isn't that old, the study of the human brain. Magic is a lot older. So magicians were actually the original psychologists.
If a magician does magic and there's no one there to see it, has magic really been performed? I think it really takes both a magician and an audience in order for the magic to happen. And I think they each feed on each other, and I think they each have a role and responsibility in theatrical performance.
Magic is great because it does teach people about perception or lack thereof. So there are illusions all around us every day, and magicians remind us of that. They remind us that you shouldn't just believe everything you read, you shouldn't believe everything you hear, and that goes for anything you see on movies, anything a politician says, even just walking down the street, meeting a stranger. You've got to be aware of many things around you at all times, or you will miss something, and magic is a constant reminder of that.